Welcome back to Hannity 2016. GOP frontrunner Donald Trump had several big primary wins last night, but if he doesn't reach the 1,237 delegates needed to secure the Republican nomination, well, could we end up with a contested GOP convention? Joining us now tonight at the Hannity Big Board to explain what that would mean is Fox and Friends' own Heather Nauert. Everyone's talking about this.
That's right. Hi there, Sean. Hi, everyone. You mentioned the magic number that everybody's been talking about. So in order for Donald Trump, Ted Cruz, or John Kasich to win the Republican nomination, one of them would need to come away with 1,237 delegates before the Republican convention this summer in Cleveland. According to the Associated Press, as of this morning, Donald Trump has to win a little over 50% of the remaining delegates to capture that nomination. So he actually has a pretty good chance at this point. Senator Ted Cruz needs to win a little less than 80% of the remaining delegates to be the nominee. Governor John Kasich, statistically eliminated. He would need more than 100% of the remaining delegates to come away as the nominee. So, Sean, if those candidates do not lock up the required delegates, then we could be headed for a contested convention. Now, in that scenario, delegates would be forced to vote for the party nominee on the convention floor. Most states and territories, those delegates are actually required to vote based on the outcome of the previously decided primaries or caucuses. But if no candidate reaches the 1,237 mark after that first round of voting, then a portion of the delegates would become unbound, meaning that they can support any candidate that they would like. If the 1,237 threshold is not reached on the second vote, then even more delegates are released or unbound, and voting continues until a candidate reaches the majority needed. You got all that? So is it possible that even if Donald Trump had the most delegates headed into the convention, he could end up losing the nomination if he fails to get the delegate support that is actually required? Now, Sean, the potential process may sound very unfair to a whole lot of people, but it has happened before. Most recently, back in 1976, the Republican nomination was settled at the convention with Gerald Ford defeating Ronald Reagan. So there are a lot of ways that this whole thing could play out. We'll keep an eye on it as it evolves just over the days, Sean.
All right, but in 76, Ford had the majority. He had more delegates.
Right,
so,
right.
All right. Heather, is there a test at 10:30 tonight?
You got all that?
All right. Thank you very much. All right. And earlier today, I spoke with RNC Chairman Reince Priebus. Mr. Chairman, good to see you.
Hey, great to be with you, Sean.
Okay, this is really important because John Kasich mathematically has no chance to get to 1237. You're the chairman of the party. Why then would he stay in? Because, you know, for Cruz supporters and Trump supporters, they're saying all he's doing is preventing anybody from getting to the magic number. Do you think that's right? Do you think that's good for the party?
Well, I think that the governor can make his own decision. You know, obviously what I would tell you is that if someone gets the majority of delegates, of bound delegates before the convention, they're going to be the nominee. I mean, there's no doubt about that. So then the only question then is, and the review is very good, the only question therefore is, if someone doesn't get the majority by the time you get to Cleveland, what is the procedure thereafter? And I thought the explanation was very good, and it is fair. I mean, the reality is that you have to get a majority of voting delegates on the floor to be the nominee.
Okay, I understand that, but
what a candidate does, though, right.
If
I was just going to say,
falls short, though,
if John,
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, if somebody falls short, and they fall short because between now and, when does it end? June 7th, I think, is the last primaries. Between now and then, if, let's say, Kasich picks off 200 delegates, okay, and that prevents Trump or Cruz from getting it, they have a mathematical chance to get there, then at that point in time, then they have served the position as spoiler. Now, I just am imagining, Kasich says that would be educational, but if the establishment comes in and they try and say, well, let's get a consensus candidate, and we're to take it away from either the delegate winner and the vote winner, Trump or Cruz, they're going to walk out. Those people are going to be so angry and so frustrated and feel so disenfranchised. Don't you think that creates nothing but a disaster?
Well, I mean, that's why you have to play it above board. I mean, I can't carpet the world and tell candidates what to do and not do, but the truth is that if a candidate were to drop out, those delegates would become unbound, Sean. So you would still not be able to count that delegate as a bound delegate. So it's still up to the candidate themselves to accumulate a majority of bound delegates before the convention. So dropping out wouldn't create a bounty of bound delegates, it would simply create more unbound delegates that are basically free agents on the floor. So to your point, though, that's why it's really important for the party to play it straight, to not play games, to be transparent and say these are going to be the rules. And when the time comes that we know whether we're going to have an open convention or not, that everyone understands moving forward that the preparations are being made, everyone's included in those conversations, and when you get to Cleveland, if that were to happen, you want people to at least say when they walk away, okay, they played it straight. That's what's really important in this process.
I got to tell you, it's getting a little scary to me because I think a lot of people would feel like, let me give you an example. I want to play for you. This is a GOP official, this person from North Dakota. I'm sure you know him, Curly Hagelin, saying, oh, wait a minute, we choose the nominee, not the voters. Why are we all voting then? Listen to this.
The rule says specifically that it's a vote of the delegates at the convention to determine if there's a majority.
Voters.
Not a primary vote. Primary votes are not considered. It's the delegates' votes. The media has created the perception that the voters will decide the nomination, and that's the conflict here. Political parties choose their nominee, not the general public, contrary to popular belief.
We choose the voters, not the people. Well, the people choose their representative to vote. So it seems that if that's the attitude, that seems like a pretty arrogant statement. And, you know, what's the point of anybody voting then?
Well, you have to understand, in North Dakota, they don't have committed delegates. They're all unbound. So they go into the convention as free agents, and that's the mindset that they bring into the convention. But I can assure you that if you have the majority of bound delegates, you're going to be the nominee. One person's opinion can't change that. But it is true that delegates that are bound, based on the outcomes of these elections, choose the nominee. So there's a lot of word playing here, but if a nominee gets the requisite number of bound delegates, they will be, the candidate will be the nominee. There's just no question about that, Sean.
All right.
And all of these stories are going to continue, and everyone's going to have opinions, and they're going to get people stirred up. But those delegates will vote on the first ballot as they are bound to vote under the law.
Mr. Chairman, I hope you're not in this position. But if there's an effort by the establishment to try and undermine and create a consensus candidate, as John Boehner said, anybody can be nominated on the convention floor, and I want Paul Ryan to get it. If that happens, I would argue that Cruz and Trump supporters will walk out and you won't see them again. I hope that doesn't happen.
If you know what, the first ballot is going to be very important, because on the first ballot is when all the bound delegates vote.
If the number one delegate getter and the
I understand what you're saying.
The number one vote getter doesn't get the nomination, they're going to walk out if there's shenanigans that go on. That's my admonition, and I'm not saying you're responsible.
But it's not about. But Sean, it's not a matter of the number one vote getter. It is, you have to have a majority of delegates to be the nominee. There's nothing nefarious about that. You have to have the majority.
If you take it from somebody that has a huge lead, it will be ugly.